The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council had been called with such urgency that Ambassador Crix hadn't even had time to properly arrange his ceremonial neck frills. He sat there, in the Grand Crystal Chamber, trying to discreetly adjust them, while High Counselor Merithra Bang Bang, a name she had chosen herself after watching too many human action movies, attempted to bring order to the chaos. "Order! Order in the Council!" Merithra's voice boomed through the chamber, her forearms slamming gavels simultaneously. "The emergency session regarding human defense protocols is now in session." "This is preposterous," shouted Representative Blurp of the Gelatinous Confederation, his translucent body rippling with indignation. "Their latest orbital defense platform has 17 redundant systems. 17. Who needs 17 backups?" "Humans, apparently," muttered Ambassador Crix, finally giving up on his frills. "Did you see the report about their latest civilian bunker specifications? They're rated to withstand a small supernova." A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing the latest human defense installation. The entire council collectively gasped, except for the methane breathers, who expressed their shock through a series of elaborate farts. "Those mad beings have installed automated defense turrets. To protect their automated defense turrets," screeched Coordinator Pip Pip Squeak, her antennae curling in distress. "And they've put backups on the backups of the backups." "Actually," interrupted Junior Analyst Zorn, a nervous-looking being with far too many eyes, "those aren't just backups. Each layer has different capabilities, and each backup system is designed to counter a different type of threat. They call it comprehensive coverage." The room fell silent, broken only by the sound of Representative Blurp stress-dissolving a portion of his desk. But that's not even the worst part," Zorn continued, his many eyes blinking in sequence. "According to our intelligence, this is just their standard protocol. They have something called contingency level guidelines, and this is just level 1. High Counselor Merithra dropped all 4 of her gavels. Level 1? You mean there's more?" "We tried to access information about the higher levels." Zorn shuffled his tentacles uncomfortably, but apparently just attempting to access the files triggered 7 different counterintelligence measures, 2 diplomatic incidents, and somehow subscribed our entire intelligence department to something called cat facts. Representative Blurp had now stress-dissolved half his chair. "What in the name of the cosmic jellies is wrong with these humans? Don't they understand the concept of enough?" "That's exactly why we're here today," Merithra announced, retrieving her gavels with as much dignity as she could muster. "We need to understand what drives them to such excessive measures, and more importantly, what aren't they telling us about levels 2 through 10? The council chamber erupted into chaos again, with various species expressing their concern through their preferred methods of panic, whether that was molt shedding, stress bioluminescence, or in the case of the methane breathers, an elaborate symphony of concerned flatulence. Captain Thrax of the notorious pirate vessel Profit Margins had thought it would be an easy score. A small human colony on the edges of settled space. Perfect target. Their intel suggested minimal defenses, just a few orbital satellites and standard planetary shields. Nothing his crew of seasoned raiders couldn't handle. "Begin approach vector," Thrax commanded, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. "Scanning for defensive measures." His sensor operator, a particularly clever Vraxian named Skitch, chittered nervously. "Captain, I'm detecting something odd." "Odd how?" "Well, those satellites. They're not just satellites. They're transforming." The bridge crew watched in collective horror as the seemingly innocuous weather monitoring satellites unfolded like deadly metal flowers, revealing weapon systems that definitely weren't listed in any official documentation. "Evasive maneuvers!" Thrax barked, but it was already too late. The first layer of defense wasn't designed to destroy. Oh no, that would have been too simple. Instead, their ship's engines were suddenly filled with something the humans called silly putty, a substance that their science officer would later describe as an unholy amalgamation of non-Newtonian fluid and pure spite. "They've deployed some kind of foam," Skitch reported, confusion evident in all three of his voices. And now the foam is hardening and playing music. Indeed, the human defense system had not only immobilized the pirate vessels, but was also broadcasting what their database identified as "Never Gonna Give You Up" by Rick Astley on all frequencies. "Push through it," Thrax commanded. "Activate the phase drives." They managed to slip past the first layer of defense, only to face what could only be described as a choreographed dance of autonomous defense platforms. These platforms weren't just shooting at them. They were actively predicting and blocking every possible escape route, while simultaneously updating their social media status. "Sir," his communications officer whispered in horror, "we're trending on human Twitter." But that wasn't even the worst part. As they attempted to descend to the planet's surface, the minimal planetary shields turned out to be just the appetizer. The atmosphere itself seemed to turn against them, with swarms of microscopic drones forming elaborate defensive patterns that their tactical officer swore were spelling out LOL in the sky. "Who puts antimatter generators in their street lamps?" screamed the science officer as they narrowly avoided what appeared to be a perfectly normal suburban neighborhood that just happened to house enough firepower to level a small moon. The final straw came when they attempted to land in what seemed to be an empty field. The ground beneath them literally opened up, revealing what their sensors insisted was both a massive defense battery and somehow a fully operational coffee shop. "Sir," Skitch reported, his voice trembling, "they're offering us a 2-for-1 deal on lattes if we surrender peacefully." Captain Thrax, watching his ships being systematically disabled by what appeared to be weaponized cleaning drones while being serenaded by late 20th century pop music, made the only sensible decision. Full retreat, and maybe get me one of those lattes to go. As they limped away from the human colony, their ships covered in rapidly hardening foam and their systems thoroughly compromised, Thrax couldn't shake the feeling that they had gotten off easy. This suspicion was confirmed when their data analyst discovered a message embedded in the foam. "Thank you for testing Level 1 colonial defense protocols. Would you like to subscribe to our newsletter for updates on levels 2 to 10 inches? The message was followed by a winky face emoji, which somehow made it infinitely more terrifying. The Galactic Security Analysis Committee convened in their reinforced bunker, a precaution that suddenly seemed woefully inadequate after reviewing the human defense protocols. Chief Analyst Pom-Pom adjusted her quantum-encrypted notepad and tried to maintain her professional composure, despite the growing urge to hide under her desk. "Let's begin with the basic layers," she announced to the assembled experts, starting with what humans classify as simple civilian protection measures. The holographic display showed a typical human suburb. Professor Quixquax, the leading expert in xenoarchitecture, pointed his appendage at what appeared to be a garden gnome. "This decorative figure," he said, his voice cracking, "contains enough scanning equipment to put our military satellites to shame. And that's not even addressing the fact that it can apparently transform into a mini-mech unit." "That's nothing," interrupted security specialist Wobble, their gelatinous form vibrating with anxiety. "Have you analyzed their park benches? Every single one has a built-in shield generator, emergency rations for 50 people, and, this part I still can't believe, a quantum-locked storage dimension containing what they call emergency supplies." The committee members shuffled through their notes, each revelation more disturbing than the last. The comparison charts with other species' defense systems had to be repeatedly extended as new human security layers were discovered. "The Zephyrian Empire's most secure facility has 3 layers of defense," noted junior analyst Bleep. "The average human shopping mall has 15. 15! And 6 of those aren't even visible to our most advanced scanning technology." "Speaking of scanning technology," Pom-Pom interjected, pulling up another hologram, "we've discovered why our deep scans keep failing. The humans have something called a defense inception protocol. Every time we scan their defenses, the scan itself activates new defensive measures, which then need to be scanned, which reveals more defenses." "Is that why the analysis department's coffee machine started dispensing tactical advice yesterday?" someone asked from the back. "Precisely. And it's actually giving quite good advice, Pom-Pom admitted, sipping from her keep calm and expect the unexpected mug, a gift from said coffee machine. Professor Quixquax pulled up his findings on human infrastructure. Their redundancy levels defy all logical analysis. Take their power grid. It's not just backed up. It's backed up, then those backups are backed up. Then they have alternative systems that don't even use power, and somehow they've incorporated something called hamster wheels into the emergency protocols. But surely their orbital defenses are more straightforward, asked a hopeful voice. Ha! Barked Senior Defender Zip, who had been quietly stress-eating in the corner. Their orbital platforms are practically fractal. Look at this diagram of a standard human satellite. The hologram showed what started as a simple communications satellite, then began unfolding layer after layer of hidden systems. 5 minutes into the demonstration, they had to take a break because 3 analysts fainted when they reached the "but wait, there's more" subsection. And here's the most disturbing part, Pom-Pom said, pulling up the final analysis. Remember those garden gnomes? We found out they have a social network. They talk to each other. There's an entire gnome-based defense grid circling their planet, disguised as lawn ornaments. They call it the Gnome Sphere. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Professor Quixquax spoke up. Has anyone else noticed that this meeting room has started feeling different since we began this analysis? Everyone froze. Slowly, they all turned to look at the potted plant in the corner, the one nobody remembered bringing in. The plant waved cheerfully and offered them cookies. Right, said Pom-Pom, accepting a cookie with a trembling hand. I think we need to revise our definition of paranoid preparation and possibly invest in some garden gnomes of our own. The committee unanimously agreed, though they couldn't shake the suspicion that this was exactly what the humans had planned all along. The fact that the cookies were somehow the best they'd ever tasted only made it more unsettling. It started with a sneeze. Well, technically, it started with Diplomatic Observer Squish forgetting to update their biological containment protocols while visiting the human colony of New Providence. One tiny sneeze, not even a particularly impressive one by Squish's gelatinous species standards, and everything went sideways. The first warning came from the colony's atmospheric monitoring system, which detected the foreign particles before they hit the ground. What should have been a minor biosecurity alert turned into what the aliens would later describe as the incident, and what humans casually referred to as Tuesday. Oh dear, was all Squish managed to say, before the city's response protocols activated. Observer Team Leader Rex watched in horror from the monitoring station as the cascade began. They're deploying everything for a sneeze? The colony's defensive systems activated in what could only be described as a choreographed dance of paranoid preparation. Streets began automatically decontaminating themselves with a foam that somehow smelled like lavender. Buildings sealed themselves faster than Rex could blink all 4 of his eyes. The entire city's ventilation system reversed, creating a perfect containment zone in under 3 seconds. Is that normal? Asked Junior Observer Ping, watching as civilian vehicles transformed into mobile decontamination units. A nearby ice cream truck unfolded to reveal what appeared to be a fully equipped emergency response center, still playing its cheerful jingle while deploying emergency supplies. Define normal, muttered Rex, tracking multiple systems activating simultaneously on his monitors. Because apparently for humans, this is just standard response pattern Delta 7. They watched as every park bench in a 5-kilometer radius opened up to reveal emergency supplies and protective gear. Garden gnomes across the city rotated in unison, creating an interlocking network of biocontainment fields. Even the advertising billboards transformed, displaying real-time evacuation routes while simultaneously running ads for a local pizza place offering quarantine special, buy one, get one free. The humans don't seem concerned, noted Ping, pointing to the colony's residents who were calmly donning protective gear that had sprouted from seemingly normal clothing. A group of schoolchildren were treating it like a well-practiced drill, forming neat lines as their backpacks expanded into personal protective bubbles. "Sir!" called out technical analyst Boop, their tentacles tangled in confusion. "I'm detecting activity from their coffee shops." "Their what?" "The coffee shops. They're deploying medical equipment and still serving drinks. There's a decontamination chamber that doubles as a drive-through window." The situation escalated further when the colony's automated defense systems decided that the biological threat might be part of a larger attack. This triggered what humans called the better safe than sorry protocol, which the alien observers quickly realized was human code for activate absolutely everything. Traffic lights began scanning for potential threats. Park benches revealed they could move on their own, forming protective barriers. Even the decorative fountains in the city square transformed, proving they were actually disguised emergency response robots that could dispense everything from medical supplies to hot chocolate. "The hot chocolate is actually quite good," commented Ping, who had somehow acquired a cup during the chaos. "The robot said it's because stress relief is part of their emergency protocols." Rex was about to respond when a new alert caught his attention. "They're activating their civilian reserve systems, but they already activated their emergency systems." "Those were just the primary emergency systems," explained a helpful human AI that had apparently been part of their observation room's furniture all along. "The civilian reserves are separate. Would you like a cookie while you watch?" "They're fresh-baked by Emergency Response Kitchen Unit 7. Through their mounting horror, the observation team watched as ordinary citizens revealed that they were anything but ordinary. Grandmothers pulled emergency response gear from their knitting bags. The local chess club turned out to be a rapid response unit in disguise. Even the colony's pets seemed to be in on it, with dogs and cats efficiently herding people towards safety while wearing what appeared to be miniature hazmat suits. "Did that hamster just deploy a force field?" whispered Ping in disbelief. "Don't be ridiculous," Rex replied. "That's clearly a guinea pig, and it's not just a force field, it's also monitoring atmospheric conditions." The final straw came when Squish, still contained in their perfect bubble of quarantine, received a medical evaluation, a complete decontamination, a full course of preventive treatments, and a loyalty card for the emergency coffee shop, all within 5 minutes. "I feel so cared for," Squish commented, sipping their complimentary quarantine quarters smoothie through a sterilized straw. "Though I'm a bit concerned about all the scanning drones following me." "Those aren't drones," the helpful AI corrected. "Those are the local Girl Scout troop. They've earned their emergency response badges and are monitoring you for signs of distress. Would you like to buy some cookies? They're certified for consumption in Level 3 quarantine conditions." Rex, watching as the entire colony efficiently handled what should have been a minor incident with enough force to repel a small invasion, finally understood why humans always seemed so relaxed about potential threats. They weren't relaxed. They were just perpetually, overwhelmingly prepared for everything. "At least it can't get any more excessive," Rex sighed. The AI chuckled. "Oh, this is just the local response team. Wait until you see what happens when they call in the neighboring colonies. They get quite competitive about their emergency response times." The observation team collectively decided that some things were better left unseen. Though they did accept more cookies, they were really good cookies. Senior anthropologist Nova Bright settled into her chair at the Galactic Conference on Human Studies, facing an audience of increasingly concerned alien researchers. Her presentation, titled "Why Humans Are Like This, a Comprehensive Study of Paranoid Preparation," had drawn an unprecedented crowd. "The key to understanding human defensive protocols," she began, "lies in their evolutionary history. While most species evolved to handle specific threats, humans developed a unique ability to imagine thousands of possible ways things could go wrong, and then prepare for all of them simultaneously." The holographic display showed various human historical events, each followed by increasingly elaborate preparation protocols. "Take this simple human invention called an umbrella," Nova continued. "It started as a rain shield. Now, The standard civilian model includes a radio beacon, solar panels, water purification system, and can transform into an emergency shelter. Why? Because one human once thought, what if I'm holding my umbrella when disaster strikes? Professor Glitch Glitch raised a tentacle. But surely they understand the concept of statistical probability. Oh, they understand it perfectly, Nova replied. They just choose to ignore it in favor of what they call Murphy's Law. Their belief that anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible moment. The presentation shifted to surveillance footage of a human birthday party. The aliens watched in confusion as what seemed like a normal celebration revealed layers of hidden security measures, emergency supplies, and at least 3 different evacuation plans, all while the humans casually ate cake. Remember the infamous cupcake incident of 2157? Nova asked. The audience shuddered collectively. That wasn't a planned response. That was just standard human birthday party preparation happening to intersect with a minor security threat. But the psychological toll, began Dr. Fizz, a leading xenopsychologist. That's the fascinating part, Nova interrupted. Humans aren't stressed by these preparations, they're comforted by them. In their minds, having 17 backup plans for a trip to the grocery store isn't paranoid. It's Tuesday. She pulled up her research findings. Their phrase, better safe than sorry, isn't just a saying. It's practically a religious mantra. And their definition of safe keeps expanding. One human child asking what if can trigger months of new security protocols. The next slide showed a human kindergarten. What appeared to be a simple playground was revealed to have more security features than most species' military installations. We've documented numerous cultural misunderstandings, Nova continued. What other species see as excessive, humans view as just being thorough. When we pointed out that their emergency response protocols for public libraries exceeded military standards on most worlds, they just nodded and said, knowledge must be protected. But the resources involved, someone protested. They consider it efficient. As one human explained to me, why waste time panicking during an emergency when you can panic during planning and be calm when crisis hits? They actually budget for what they call preventative paranoia. Nova's final slide showed a human child's bedroom. This is perhaps the most telling example. What appears to be a simple nightlight is actually part of a comprehensive defense grid. Why? Because one child said they were scared of monsters under the bed, and well, you've seen how humans respond to perceived threats. The audience sat in stunned silence, processing the implications. In conclusion, Nova said, humans don't see their protocols as excessive. They see everyone else's as dangerously inadequate. And perhaps most worryingly, they're starting to make sense to me. Does anyone else feel like this room could use a few more emergency exits? The nervous laughter that followed was interrupted by the sudden realization that the room had, indeed, sprouted several new exits during the presentation. Nobody had seen them appear. Nobody wanted to ask how. The Galactic Council's archive room was usually a quiet place, disturbed only by the occasional rustling of digital papers and the soft hum of quantum computers. Today, however, it echoed with the sound of senior archivist Beat Bop having what could only be described as an existential crisis. No, 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 they muttered, their crystalline form flickering with distress. This can't be right. The discovery had been accidental. While reorganizing Human Defense Protocol documentation, they'd found a small note, almost an afterthought, buried in the Standard Procedures Manual. The aforementioned protocols constitute Standard Level 1 responses only. For information about Levels 2, 10, please submit Form X789Q in triplicate to your local Human Defense Authority office. When news of the discovery reached the Galactic Council chamber, High Counselor Marithra Bang Bang spilled her 7th cup of coffee that day. What do you mean, Level 1? Everything we've seen, the transforming garden gnomes, the weaponized coffee shops, the tactical hamster units, that's all just Level 1. Ambassador Crix, who had finally gotten his neck frills properly arranged, promptly had them wilt again. According to this report, humans classify Level 1 as Basic civilian protection measures. Basic? Basic? The methane breathers' representative was so agitated they produced a symphony worthy of a gas giant's atmosphere. What could possibly constitute Level 2? Actually, junior analyst Zorn piped up, all eyes blinking nervously, we did manage to get a peek at Level 2's title before our systems crashed. The room held its breath, except for the methane breathers, who were still performing. It's labelled Mild Precautions. The resulting chaos caused 3 diplomatic incidents, 2 spontaneous molts, and 1 very confused potted plant to reveal itself as a human monitoring system and offer everyone stress relief tea. In the following weeks, the implications for galactic politics became clear, though not in ways anyone had expected. The Regellian Empire cancelled their planned expansion after discovering that human colony worlds had Level 3 moderate response protocols. The Zephyrian Collective submitted a formal request for a defensive alliance, specifically asking for access to what they called the Garden Gnome technology. The diplomatic corps wasn't handling it well. Ambassador Crix was found building miniature bunkers out of office supplies. Representative Blurp had stress-dissolved so many chairs that the council had to switch to waterproof furniture. Then came the final straw. During a routine infrastructure inspection of the council headquarters, someone discovered that the entire building's security system had been quietly upgraded over the years by humans, who had apparently been hired as consultants decades ago. But that's not even the worst part, Coordinator Pip Pip Squeak announced to the emergency session. We found their installation notes. They labelled it as a preliminary basic prototype for beginners. The council chamber, which had already been revealed to have 7 more emergency exits than anyone remembered installing, fell silent. Oh, and one more thing, Pip Pip Squeak added, antennae twitching. You know how we've been joking about humans having contingency plans for their contingency plans? Everyone nodded nervously. Well, we just found out those contingency plans have their own contingency plans, and those plans, they're just Level 1 contingency plans. As the implications sank in, High Councillor Merithra noticed something odd about her coffee cup. The seemingly decorative pattern around the rim wasn't just a pattern, it was a message. In microscopic text, repeated thousands of times, were the words, "This cup is a Level 0.5 emergency response unit." She looked around the room, suddenly aware that everything, from the chairs to the light fixtures to the potted plants that kept offering increasingly specific types of calming tea, was probably more than it seemed. Well, she announced to the panicking council, raising her possibly more than a coffee cup, at least we can be absolutely certain we're the most thoroughly protected government in galactic history. The cup beeped in agreement and offered her a biscuit.